Welcome to the World Fitness, Health and Wellness APAC Leadership Summit organized by the Fit Summit. Today we are joined by Edwina Griffin, the founder at ATONE. Thank you so much for joining us today, Edwina. How have you been?
So I'm doing well, thank you. I am in Sydney at the moment. It's a really hot, sunny day, so very well.
Nice. That's nice to hear.
Having me on.
Pardon?
Thank you for having me on. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's a great pleasure to have you join us. Let's dive into the first question. Can you walk us through of how ATONE was born? What was the catalyst for its creation?
Absolutely, I can. ATONE is pretty well my career of knowledge. So there's three key things that happened. The most sort of highlighted one would be my own experience with stress and collapsing from stress. And my background of I meditated regularly and my inability to meditate when I was at that high level of stress. And I needed to input from various sort of senses. So it required something out of my ordinary, just listening to an audio or meditating. I couldn't do it when I was highly stressed. So I identified that there was nothing in the market that could help me at that time. That was the key identifier. And then in terms of the more recent technology I'm using, I've been watching it for about 5 years. And the price of tech has come right down in terms of virtual reality, in terms of brainwave measurements and biofeedback. And that's what else I've been waiting for, because it was a too high a price point earlier to make it usable for the general consumer. So that also came down. And the other sort of criteria for me was, I guess, the value of meditation. I've been teaching it for 20 years. It transformed my life. And having taught it, I realized how many people struggle with it when you're just sitting there showing them. So I found this approach, multi-sensory approach, means that people are just immersed. So it helps to take them into a deeper state. So it was also based on the feedback where people were just getting frustrated and feeling like they couldn't meditate. And what this product does is enables them to be in a relaxed place, regardless of whether they think they can meditate. So it kind of overcomes that problem that I was seeing in the market.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for taking us through the journey of how ATONE was created. I'm sure that it is an amazing product and I can't wait to hear more about it. Billions of capitals are being invested in wellness technology right now. How do you see these investments playing out?
Look, I think technology is the way of the future. This year with COVID has certainly highlighted that. And I think that's one of the advantages that we started developing this product last sort of July, August, without COVID. And if anything, it's the awareness of technology and the adaptability of people and the willingness of people to try tech has just gone through the roof as a result of the fact that we had to. And so I think it's a no-brainer. All of the research shows that the tech space is just predicted to increase 2 to 3-fold in the next 3 years, really. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's even higher than that, because most of those predictions were prior to COVID. So I think, the future of tech is the way where it's at. And I think it's really going to be a matter of everyone's going to have to be on board, or you're going to be missing some of the market. If anything, I think we've established that even with online classes in the fitness industry, that there's another whole market we may not have been getting. Well, this is also inclusive of using different tech with VR technologies and, artificial intelligence and things. So there's, I think, only going to expand the market. And I think there will also be the expectation of consumers that we will have this technology because people are going to be having it. It's being used in, learning environments. It's being used in health in terms of medical. It's being used, with our health educators, nurses and everything are doing artificial intelligence for training staff. We've been working a lot with corporates, and most of them, if they don't already have virtual reality headsets, are getting them, and they're bringing in that sort of training. And especially the leading organisations, they want to be seen to be leading, not behind the pack. So they're leading the way already. We've been meeting with a lot of them, and they're already on board. They're already using it for other things. So it means from a health and wellness point of view, it's being used professionally. And so then the wellness application is really quite an easy thing to adapt to bring in. And it's been interesting even working in different spaces of different industries and mining and tech. And they've focused very much on safety. They've focused on training of staff for better sales or better, operations. But often they had forgotten about wellness. And now that I think wellness as a result of COVID has come on to all finance and all of the priorities of companies, there's budgets being applied, which probably 10, 20 years ago we didn't have. But every organisation now has a budget. Every individual is now aware of the stress we've got. there's so many elements. I can go on and on, I guess. The World Health Organization's, but, burnout's now on the agenda. People's awareness is heightened on stress and on wellness and the importance of looking after ourselves. And I think COVID has just increased the consciousness and the awareness around the world of wellness. So we're lucky to be in this space at this time.
Yeah, definitely. I think what you said really makes a lot of sense. I think what appels me most is the fact that the amalgamation between healthcare and the wellness ecosystem as well. Now it's being seen as one, and I think that's the way to go. So thank you so much for sharing this with us. Let's move on to the next question. Where do you see the most future growth for AT1? Is it based on new products, new customers, or new regions?
I would say all of the above to an extent. Not so much all products. I think the next step for us will be going into machine learning and artificial intelligence within the technology itself. Expanding into new markets is a definite. It's part of it. We're a startup, so it's like we want to get out and share it for everyone. So I think that's a no-brainer, and that's the beauty of technology is there's no restriction. We don't have to be restricted by boundaries. But certainly going into machine learning, artificial intelligence, and having in-app sort of adaptability, to me, is something that's not been done previously. We've got the biofeedback happening now, but I also want to expand that to more wearables because, as we just mentioned, the technology market is expanding so much that there's going to be more and more wearables. So I want to make sure that we're up on all the latest tech and the latest wearables, and trying to make things all talk to each other has been one of the challenges we've had, and something that I think we'll need to keep on top of moving forward. So that's always going to be, I'm a big believer in needing proof and scientific proof. And I think that's, again, another reason that I brought this product out now, because science has caught up with meditation and the benefits. And so we've got some great science behind it now that we can measure heart rate variability, brainwave states. And so we'll continue to develop in that space to increase more and more the credibility of the product. I know it works, but you need the science behind it. So I think that, and one of the other key areas certainly that's become highlighted as a result of COVID is that need for connection, the connection piece. So we'll be working on that, potentially bringing in partnerships with allied health and the benefits of bringing in practitioners into this space where people can use their own knowledge base and use our product within that. So I feel that, telehealth and being able for people to be able to have sessions within the app will be part of our future. But again, I've got about 1,000 ideas, and one of my lessons has been to just start with a simple and then we'll move on. But that's the exciting part about tech. So since we started last year, things have changed so much, and the technology's shifted and changed. So, you kind of get new tech and you get new capabilities. So then you're like, no, now we can do this. So it's really a matter of, for me, it's a matter of slowing me down. I think I've probably got 5 years of ideas ready to go. So I think it's a matter of communicating correctly what we've got now. And yeah, we've got a lot of plans in the pipeline.
Sounds very exciting. I am very excited for what you have in your pipeline for AT1. So congratulations in advance and good luck. Let's move on to our next question. How have you strategically aligned your company's offerings to meet the current market demand?
I think what has changed from, when I initially was starting this project last July, August, obviously, is COVID. And so my initial target market would have been more on corporate and workplace health, which is still a priority, certainly a priority. But since this year, it's become a priority to then try and bring it to general population. I think the need for that, and currently in places where people are locked down and unable to socialise much, and mental health has gone through the roof and suicide rates have gone through the roof. I think that has shifted the priority slightly, where we've now changed the direction to bring in general public as, the general consumer as a priority, because obviously the marketing channels are very different. So that would be more on the public store. And so we've shifted the priorities around that. We also have been working with elite athletes, and a lot of the elite athletes, that was kind of, working with Tennis Australia's and some of the elite companies in Australia, or the elite sporting organisations. A lot of the events have been cancelled this year. So we were planning for quite a few of the events, and they're not happening. So again, that's shifted our priorities based on what's going on. It's also meant we're continuing to test in those places. But I guess what's changed in terms of strategic direction is the market that we will begin with first. And I think particularly in Australia, and I think around the world, governments are really trying to work and support small business owners and just general population for mental health issues. So I really want to target that market. There's so many markets that we do want to target because there's also people with disabilities that were a priority, but because of COVID, I want to get it to the general user who, at home, who may not be willing to speak up. There's still a stigma attached to mental health. It's improving, but I really want to try and enable people to access this resource, regardless, as to have this tool up their sleeve.
Thank you so much for sharing.
That's probably the main change, because the actual product has always been targeting mental health and stress. So I think it was, we were lucky we were just kind of on that path anyway. So I guess the direction of the product hasn't totally changed. However, just the market targets and the marketing approach.
I think you guys managed to identify the gap in the industry and actually managed to solve it. So I am actually very excited for Edwine's product on this based on what you mentioned. I mean, now all the industries most of the industry is moving towards like AI, VR, and AR. What are your thoughts on how AI, VR, and AR will feature in our fitness and wellness ecosystem? And the second question is, what should operators consider when taking into account such new initiatives?
Yeah, great question. Look, I think it's already happening. So I think one of the things to consider as operators is that it's on the table and it's coming and it's already here, really. So I think if you're not on the front foot, then you're going to be missing out on potential markets. The AI, the great news about it is I think the quality of our service, we're always trying to get better quality for our customers, and the quality of our service can be improved with AI. You reduce, using a computer reduces human error. Great. And there's already technologies that, as we know, that are correcting movement patterns and biomechanics. And then it's also the ability to be programming nutritionists and nutrition programs, and exercise programs, and providing a better solution than we even can. This is the great thing about artificial intelligence and machine learning. You can predict things. So combining those two is an exciting opportunity. And I think it's going to be expected. And it's also happening, as you mentioned earlier, in terms of the alignments of allied health and medical. You've got the wearables that are now not just collecting data, they're also predicting things, they're also highlighting health issues and heart rate, and insurance companies are on board. Insurance companies are wanting to predict health, and I think that's probably going to develop further and further. So if you can be a provider that's giving those statistics to the user and improving their quality of life, people want results, people want science, they want that happening. So it's very much already there. And I guess there's an element of, okay, that's potentially, what are our personal trainers going to do? But I think there's a market we're not getting with the personal trainers. So I think a positive way to look at this is it's a lower price point for people to get that sort of level of programming. It's a market you may not already be getting. And it's also a tool that the personal trainers can use. So it helps for staff retention. There's so many things because you're training your staff up on the latest tech. Everyone wants to be on the edge. So I think there's, from a business owner's point of view, there's so many elements here, not only for the customer, but also for the staff, also for efficiencies, reduce mistakes. They're using it, as we know, in medicine. They're using it with pathology results. So it's reliable. It's probably more reliable than we are. It doesn't get stressed like we do. It doesn't have issues with cortisol and rational thinking switching off. So especially in stressful times, I certainly am happy to be relying on a computer for some of those mistakes that we might have made otherwise, and it increases that credibility. But in terms of business planning, I think it's a no-brainer. It's already out there, and there's a lot of money to be made in this space as well. So I think it's going to be the norm in the same way that we have phone apps. This sort of technology is going to be the norm. And it's a matter of choosing your niche. One thing I have learned that I think is an important message here is around the fact of sticking in a niche you do know, because the actual tech itself, from my experience, even just being able to speak to the techies is enough learning. So don't go into a space that you don't know, because I think the temptation is you think, I can do this and this, and we can also do that. But there's so much to learn in the tech space that definitely sticking with what you know is an important element to that.
Definitely. I think that's a very important point, especially when it comes to tech. Thank you so much for sharing this. We've now moved on to our last question, and it's my favorite question. Final question. Can you share with us a key business lesson that you have learned while building up your company that keeps you going during this rough and tough times?
Okay, so it's interesting, this question, because my key business lesson probably didn't keep me going at times. So I'm gonna probably give a couple, if I may, because I think one of the keys for me this year has been that I have to be adaptable and flexible, because we were planning on launching in May. Things have all gone very south. and we're still, you know, preparing to get it all. It's about to launch, as you know, but it's about 8 months late. So part of me was incredibly irritated and this, that, and the other. But actually, the interesting part is to trust that and just go with it, because certain price points of our headset, for example, is almost halved. And if we'd launched in May, it would have been another $400-500, you know, for someone to buy. So there's good things that come out of that. So for me, it's been a little bit around trust the process and just focus on what I know and what I can.